The jobs report surprising investors, charging up markets after June saw 287,000 jobs added after just 11,000 were added in May and 144,000 in April. While June's numbers are encouraging, that brings the three-month average to 147,000 jobs added per month. That's just barely meeting the break-even rate for current economic growth. So is U.S. job growth really as good as this report would have us believe? LaSalle Network founder and CEO Tom Gimbel and Forbes media chairman Steve Forbes join us now with their take. Steve, I have to ask first about the violence in Dallas very quickly. How do we deal with this violence?
To be blunt, stop the war on cops. If something goes wrong, apparently what happened in Minnesota, you deal with specific cases. You don't draw sweeping conclusions, rush to judgment, as we've tended to do, especially on the part of the federal government, and recognize that effective policing makes us safe. New York's a prime example. Crime-ridden in the 70s and 80s, reforms in the 90s, they worked, and now we're repealing those reforms.
It's amazing how this city turned around. We had 2,200 murders a year. We now have less than 400, and of course the city has exploded in commerce and economic activity.
Times Square, once an area you don't go to get in trouble, now it's a tourist mecca.
Now, what about the economy and this jobs report? Have we turned a corner here in the U.S.?
I wish we had, but if you look closely, no. The work week, still very weak. Wage increases, not what they should be. And if you look at what they call the household survey, where they call up and ask who's working instead of just calling up businesses, you find that the job creation is very small. That's where small business job creation would show up. So bottom line, we're still stuck in second gear.
Now, Tom, far be it for me to disagree with my buddy Steve Forbes here, but wages were up 2.6% in this report. That's good news, no?
Yeah, that's good news, and I think it's a good number. It's better than having a smaller number. There's no debate there, but I have to agree with Steve that it's more of an aberration than a pattern. And you also have in June a lot of kids graduating college and entering the workforce, and they're coming in at lower salaries. And so what Steve's saying is right. There's a small increase in wages. There's still a huge skills gap. And the bigger issue, and I think Steve would probably agree, isn't going to be now. It's going to be in 2017, because that's when we're going to start feeling the effects from the legislation that's been done with the overtime exemption coming in December 1st.
So, Tom, what you're saying is that we've just come out with far too many regulatory changes. We're piling on with the regulations to the point where it's hard to start a new business.
I think there's no doubt about that, and it's hard for existing businesses to add on people, which is where a lot of the jobs are created in small and medium size. And really the biggest issue is people think that we're going to see, if we don't see negative ramifications from legislation in month 1 or month 2, then they're never going to happen. Well, guess what? They happen 12 to 24 months after the legislation occurs. That's when the ramifications hit, and we're going to feel that in 2017 and 2018.
So, Steve, how do we jumpstart the economy?
First, if you want job creation, have the Federal Reserve and the regulators stop pounding banks who want to make loans to small and new businesses. That's a killer. Well, in fact, the Fed is in credit allocation to big companies and big government, reforming and simplifying the tax code and repealing Obamacare and getting a real social safety net in there instead of these massive regulations where you don't know what the cost of your labor is going to be. Costs are still going up, massive failure. I think the House, at least, is onto this. And if we get a right president, you'll get changes next year.
Steve Forbes, Tom Gimbel, gentlemen, thank you very much.